Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Lady side. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Yanitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitan Yena Bhutale Swayan Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavanishware Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for coming and being here, present. And thank you for those online watching. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 16, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Text 23. Yadvam bate bhuri varavatara Yadvam bate bhuri bharavatara Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Antarhitasya smarati vishishta Antarhitasya smarati vishvita Karma nirvana vilambitani Karma nirvana vilambitani Yadvam bate bhuri varhavatara Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Antarhitasya smarati vishrishta Karma nirvana vilambitani. Bolo. Paravatara Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Antarhitasya smarati vishishta Karma nirvana vilambitani Yadvam bate bhuri varavatara Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Antarhitasya smarati vishishta Karma nirvana vilambitani. Ladies, Yadvam bate bhuri varavataram Kritavatarasya harer dharitri Antarhitasya smarati vishrishta Karma nirvana vilambita. Yatva, that may be. Amba, O Mother, Te, your. Bhuri, heavy. Bhara, load. Avatara, decreasing the load. Krita, done. Avatarasya, one who incarnated. Harehe, of Lord Sri Krishna. Dharitri, O earth. Antarhitasya, of him who is now out of sight. Smarati, while thinking of. Vishrishta, all that were performed. Karmani, activities. Nirvana, salvation. Vilambitani, that which entails. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, incarnated Himself as Lord Sri Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All His activities here are transcendental, and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of His presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence. Purport. The activities of the Lord include liberation, but they are more relishable than the pleasure derived from nirvana or liberation. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word used here is nirvana vilambitani, that which minimizes the value of liberation. To attain nirvana, liberation, one has to undergo a severe type of tapasya, austerity. But the Lord is so merciful that He incarnates to diminish the burden of the earth. Simply by remembering such activities, one can defy the pleasure derived from nirvana and reach the transcendental abode of the Lord to associate with Him, eternally engaged in His blissful, loving service. Dharma, in the form of a bull, is speaking to Mother Earth in the form of a cow. And Parikshit Maharaj, he is seeing that Kali Yuga, the qualities of Kali Yuga have entered into his kingdom, and riding his chariot driven by horses. What color are the horses of Parikshit Maharaj chariot? Black. And with a flag. And what is in the flag? A lion. So he is traveling through his kingdom, and he found this scene where the bull is being, just standing on one leg, and the cow, and the bull is actually inquiring from the cow, from Mother Earth, because he's seeing her in a very distressed condition. And the distressed condition is due to the influence of the age of Kali. And if you go into the high street of a modern city in the West, and you look at people's faces in the underground, or sometimes it's quite revealing. They say that the face is the index of the mind. And people have their suffering like reflected in their faces. So the bull is inquiring from Mother Earth, and it's very interesting that he's asking many questions. That's been discussed in the previous verses. Do you remember any of the questions that the bull, any of the reasons that the bull gives why Mother Earth may be distressed? Yes, you must tell me, Prabhu. Yeah, maybe your relatives, maybe in relationship to your relatives, they are living far away in terms of relationships. This is adibhautika, right? Adibhautika klesha. What other sufferings are there? I gave you a big clue there, right? Adi atmika, right? Is it due to some disease, some problem, physical problem? We find this is also very common in Kali Yuga. But practically everybody is afflicted by some form of disease, either mental or physical. In fact, if you look at the statistics in the US, for example, about mental disease, they're pretty high from very young age. We're not talking about, a specific when you reach certain age. No, from the very age, from school time, from college time, like about 70% of students, they seek, the help of a counselor, at one point, due to their distress. So the bull is inquiring various, is it because the Brahmanas, because Sarasvati now is being misused by the Brahmanas, is because the Brahmanas, they are not executing their duties. So the bull is actually describing what are the qualities in this Kali Yuga. And it's interesting also that he's asking so many questions. When we see someone in distress, because in the Bhagavatam there is another instance where someone is in great distress and someone is asking, are you distressed because this? Are you distressed because that? Are you the whole chapter is just one person asking another the cause of the distress. You know which chapter is this? Or who are these personalities? Arjuna and Yudhishthira. Thank you, Mataji. Arjuna had gone to Dwarka to find out what was happening because Yudhishthira Maharaj had seen so many bad omens. And when Arjuna came back, he was also looking very despondent. And Yudhishthira had seen all these omens, and he was also anticipating that maybe the cause of Arjuna's despondency is that which I am even afraid to ask. Okay? So he goes the whole chapter saying, is this because a lady came to you asking for shelter and you couldn't give shelter? Is it because you've been defeated? Is it because this? Is it because that? He cannot even ask. Is it because Krishna has now departed this world? So traumatic. So like you don't want to face the truth. And he's asking all these questions. So similarly here, the cause of the despondency of the earth is the same. It's a parallel there, right? And what is the cause of the despondency of the earth? Krishna has now departed. And, along with him, he has taken with him religion, knowledge, etc. So therefore, she who was actually before, had the direct contact with the Lord, because Krishna was touching her with her feet. Now she is deprived of her association. So the Bhagavatam, the beauty of the Bhagavatam is that enables us to access these strong sentiments of the devotees. Like in that chapter, Yudhishthira is so afraid to ask, now is it that our dear friend Krishna is now gone? Please, I hope not. I hope he's not. And then, and it's nice, also a nice instruction for us because, we often feel despondent and we also may see someone who is despondent. And do we ask so many questions? Do we try to find out the cause of the despondency? Or not? Sometimes it may even consider be rude if you suggest, is it this happened to you, that happened to you? But actually, we are This is a very personal exchange that is taken between the bull and the cow, between dharma and bhumi. And in the previous verses, the relationship is very clearly explained. And dharma, who is represented by the bull, he is actually the protector of the earth. He's actually the protector of the earth. Bhumi, who has taken the shape of a cow, she's being exploited. This is a situation in modern society. Bhumi, the earth, is being exploited. Natural resources are being exhausted. There is so many ecological, problems. And people are trying to find different solutions. But the Bhagavatam is giving us the actual solution. What is the solution to protect what protects the earth? What protects the earth? Is that we stop using plastic? I mean, I'm not saying it's definitely good to stop using plastic, but there is a higher principle there. And what is that principle? Dharma, to follow religious principles. Naturally, we follow religious principles. We won't be using plastic. We won't be killing the animals in the first place as the most, you could say, damaging, or the principle that stands out the most during Kali Yuga is that people are killing the animals. And these are all, like Bhumi is addressed here as Dharitri. She's the mother of all living entities. So how distressed is the earth when her sons are killing her own sons? This is so serious. This is what is destroying the ecological system. And we see that because of animal slaughter, there are so many ecological imbalances. The main cause of ecological imbalance on the planet is not cars, like the exhaust. It's actually slaughterhouses. So the Bhagavatam is giving a very scientific explanation of how to resolve the ecological problems. And it's by following religious principles, which we are going to hear in this particular chapter. So now, in this verse specifically, the bull is addressing the earth, and is saying that the Lord, he performed, while he was on the earth, he performed many pastimes. And Prabhupada, and he says that these pastimes, karmani nirvana vilambitani, is that when we actually become absorbed in hearing about Krishna, in hearing about the Lord, then this experience, it makes nirvana look insignificant. Nirvana vilambitani. In other words, devotional service makes liberation seem insignificant. I was reading about this morning, and when I saw Jamastami coming into the class, I thought, there must be some nectar of devotion today in the class. That's why he came. What is the equivalent to nirvana vilambitani in the nectar of devotion? Moksha lagutakrit. And Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada, explains in the nectar of devotion that there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Kleshagni, it removes all distress. Subhada, it gives all auspiciousness. Then Sudurlabha, this is at the level of sadhana bhakti. Then at the level of bhava bhakti, we have sudurlabha is very difficult, is rarely attained. And then moksha lagutakrit. Lagu means very small, very insignificant. So he says that at the level of bhava bhakti, devotional service makes moksha look insignificant. And then you have, at the level of prema bhakti, Sandrananda Visheshatma and Shri Krishna Akarshini. And Sandrananda Visheshatma refers to the ecstasy of the happiness of Krishna consciousness at the level of prema bhakti, which is so dense that it's like a metal. You know, the metal, you cannot penetrate the metal because it's highly dense, highly condensed. So the happiness of Krishna consciousness at the level of prema, it cannot be penetrated by anything else. In other words, the devotee of the Lord, he doesn't even consider now other types of happiness. So, and there are three types of happiness being described. Is the happiness derived from sense gratification? Is the happiness derived from liberation? And is the happiness derived from devotional service? So the happiness derived from devotional service is explained by Rupa Goswami that is so much higher than the happiness of, well, the happiness of Brahmananda, which is the happiness of liberation, of being free from the bodily concept of life and being fully conscious and aware of the soul. The happiness of Brahmananda is so much higher than the happiness derived from sense gratification, from sense enjoyment. Particularly, you can compare it. But now, the happiness of Bhakti Ananda, the happiness derived from devotional service, is so incomparably much higher than the happiness of Brahmananda that it says that, you know, an ocean of the happiness of Brahmananda cannot be compared to a drop of water, to a drop of the happiness derived from devotional service. Like, and the Sanskrit word is parardha. Parardha means like the highest conceivable number. So the highest conceivable number of the happiness of Brahmananda cannot be compared with an insignificant, you know, tiny little fraction of the happiness derived from devotional service. Do we believe it? Do we accept it? Do we live according to this principle? Because if we really accept it, we should be like extremely eager to practice bhakti. We should be like so enthusiastic. We should be like immersed in the happiness of Krishna consciousness, that, you know, we don't want anything else. We don't want anything else. And then, as we are discussing, and this happiness, like Rupa Goswami is explaining on three levels. He's explaining at the level of sadhana, he's explaining at the level of bhava, and at the level of prema. But even the happiness experienced at the level of sadhana, which is described in the quality of subhada. I'm giving it's a little kind of nectar of devotion class today. I hope it's not too technical, but it's very interesting. This is Nectar of Devotion is such a beautiful, beautiful book, and we should all learn it inside out, because this is like the manual, our manual for practicing devotional service. So he's saying that Subhada, for something to be auspicious, he has to have four characteristics. One, it benefits everyone. Two, it attracts everyone. Three, it bestows all good qualities. In other words, by the execution of devotional service, one develops all good qualities. And four, it bestows a higher happiness. So even at the level of sadhana bhakti that we are on, we're engaged in sadhana bhakti, at that level, the happiness of liberation, the happiness of sense gratification is insignificant. And then we go, when moksha laguta krit is a higher level of happiness when, well, actually at the level of sadhana bhakti basically means that the happiness of devotional service is higher than the happiness of sense enjoyment. At the level of bhava bhakti, we're now experiencing love for God. We're actually getting the personal reciprocation of the Lord. And at that level, the happiness of this sense enjoyment becomes insignificant. And then at the level of prema bhakti, you don't even consider it. So Prabhupada goes on to explain, he gives the example of Kolavesha Sridhar. But you know, whenever I meditate on this, you know, we have so many contemporary examples of this. And I remember His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, who by the way is one of the original teachers of the Nectar of Devotion. He was born in a very rich family. I don't know if you know about this. He was the son of a very, very important lawyer in Chicago. Very, very wealthy. And he joined the movement and he came here to India and he was assisting Prabhupada with the Juhu project. And I don't know if anyone has read his book. It's a very wonderful book. And it's described that Prabhupada, when he was there, you know, they had practically no facility. The place was infected with, you know, snakes, rats, mosquitoes, and they didn't have the facility that we have now. Like this Mayapur complex is almost like a holiday resort, you know. So beautiful. This, you know, you go to the Samadhi to chant, you feel like you are in a spiritual world, practically speaking, actually. It's better than a holiday resort. It's the eternal holiday resort. So, but then those days they didn't have any facility, and his father came all the way to India with a check for $1 million. This is 1970, mid-70s. The equivalent now to that will be what? Maybe 10 million, 100 million, I don't know. But a lot more. And he said, okay, you can have it if you come back with me and you leave this movement. And what was Maharaj's response? What do I need this for? I'm happy here. You know? I'm happy here. So this is the test of our Krishna consciousness. The test of our Krishna consciousness is how much we are becoming, you know, intoxicated by the happiness derived from how much we are absorbed in the execution of devotional service, that we are no longer looking anymore to the material world, to the material enjoyment. And we have so many examples. Many of the early disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they were coming from very wealthy families. His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. We heard, I didn't know, the other day in the glorifications that Pankajangri Prabhu and Jananivas Prabhu, they also come from wealthy families. And they were prepared to give up everything, all the comforts, for the sake of practicing Krishna consciousness. So it's important to meditate on these things so that we understand the value of Krishna consciousness. That, you know, no level of material enjoyment can compare to that. Nothing. People are enjoying in the material world, you know, the great, wealthy, famous actors and musicians, and they are taking shelter of intoxication. They are having a Swarga Pavarga Narakeshu Apitulyarta Darshina. That for a devotee, he says that devotee, he doesn't consider, he's never afraid of any condition of life. He's never afraid of any condition of life. For him, Swarga, heavenly planet, Apavarga, liberation, or Naraka, or hell, they're all the same. They're solely concerned with one thing, the devotional service of the Lord. That's the platform of devotional service. I wasn't there. Someone mentioned to me that His Holiness Indradhyuna Swami was giving class just a few days ago. And I may not get it exactly right because I wasn't there personally, but the gist of it was that he was saying that on the beginning of his Krishna consciousness was explaining that, I will give this life to Krishna, But now, not this life. I hope eternally to be engaged in the service of the Lord, even if I have to go to hell. Even going to hell. As far as I'm engaged in the service of the Lord. That's the result of, a life of dedication to the path of Krishna consciousness. That we are indifferent to the material environment, indifferent to the material circumstance. Is the happiness we are deriving is from our relationship with Krishna, our relationship with the Vaishnavas, and our relationship to the spiritual master, our desire to fulfill his instructions. Where do you find this? That someone is prepared to go to hell. Like the gopis. This is the prime example, right? The gopis, they were prepared, as far as Krishna is happy, as far as Krishna is one moment of, the suffering of Krishna's headache is just relief from one moment, we can go to hell for eternity. What are they experiencing? What are they experiencing? And this is what the bull is explaining to Bhumi. He's saying that by being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one becomes indifferent even to liberation. Liberation means cessation of all material distress. No more problems. Shanti, shanti. Peace of mind, no knee pain, no fastings to do to get healthier, to clean the stomach, or nothing. Just shanti. He says, but, karmani nirvana vilambitani. And when we are describing, when Prabhupada is explaining about this, about moksha laguta krit, in the Nectar of Devotion, he's quoting Kolavesha Sridhar. And this is very nicely explained also in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. We're familiar with Kolavesha Sridhar. He was living not far from here. And when Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he performed his Mahaprakash Lila, for 21 hours he concealed his mood of a devotee, and he was manifesting all the different incarnations of the Lord in Vaikuntha. He sat on the altar, on the throne, and he allowed the worship of his devotees to worship. They did Abhishek, they worshiped his feet. They offered food to him, just like he was the Lord of Vaikuntha. And after all this, who did he ask for? He asked his devotees, please go and find Sridhar, Kolavesha Sridhar. Find him. And the devotees went to his place, and even before they arrived, they could hear him chanting. They could hear his chanting, deeply absorbed. And they mentioned to him that Lord Chaitanya has called for you. And he immediately fainted in ecstasy, just to hear the name of Lord Chaitanya. And then he came back into the presence of the Lord, and the Lord was remembering how in his childhood, this Kolavesha Sridhar, he was very, very poor. He only was selling banana plates and banana cups and bananas, and he was making very, very little profit. And even that profit, he will use 50% to worship Ganga. And then Lord Chaitanya will come and he will bargain with him and he will tease him around and steal from him the bananas. And they were having all these exchanges. And so then Lord Chaitanya actually, he offered him all kinds of mystic perfections. And he manifested himself, his form of the Lord of Vaikuntha. And Sridhar, Kolabesha Sridhar, he was overwhelmed in ecstasy and he was offering prayers to the Lord. And the Lord offered him, what benediction do you want? I'll give you any type of benediction. Now, if the Lord comes to you today and he says to you, okay, Pushpa Gopal Mataji, you've been doing very well. What benediction do you want? You can have whatever you want. What would you say? Anyone? If you don't want to say, what would you say if the Lord comes to you today and asks you can have anything? Honest, not by the book, but what is in your heart. You look in your heart. What are you hankering for the most? Right? And what was Sridhar, Kolabesha Sridhar saying? I don't want anything, my Lord. I just want that we eternally, having quarrel and have these loving exchanges that we have. And actually, Lord Chaitanya, he said, this Kolabesha Sridhar, he's a cheater. He's cheating us all. Because he appears to be a very poor man. He was living in a hut. There was there were holes on the roof. He only had one piece of cloth, and it was like very old, and one very old lota he will use for everything. And he said, he's cheating us all. He says, I want to taste. He's keeping the highest treasure. I want to taste that. And he grabbed his lota and he drank from his lota, which was full of prema. So even the Lord himself wants to experience this love, which is made available to us. How? In the form of the holy name, in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the form of living in the holy dham, in the form of associating with devotees. So this is the treasure, the gift that Prabhupada is giving us. And the cow and the bull, in this case Dharma, he is expressing this to the cow. He's guessing that the cause of her disturbance is that now she's bereft of Krishna consciousness, of the presence of the Lord. But we hear in the Bhagavatam also that just as the sun of Krishna sets by him departing from this world, Bruhi Yogesvare Krishna Brahmanye Varmadharmani, that he leaves this world accompanied by knowledge, religion, etc. So just as that sun sets, another sun rises. Which sun is that? Just as Krishna's sun sets, one other sun rises. Famous verse in the Bhagavatam. Anyone? Can you give us the verse? Krishna swadamupagate dharma gyanadivi saha kalau nashta drishyam mesa pura anarko dunodita. This Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light from this Bhagavad Purana. So Krishna has appeared in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can take shelter of him and we can remove the darkness from our hearts, that we actually get the proper vision in Kali Yuga. The whole chapter is describing about the influence of Kali Yuga, the degradation of Kali Yuga. That degradation is affecting us, it's affecting our hearts. I find particularly now, in one sense, at least to me appears more than ever, through the internet, we're exposed to all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of distractions. I remember, I was just recalling yesterday when I was a brahmachari, when I was living in the Sankirtan house, I didn't even know what internet was, you know? It was already there. And I remember sometimes we needed some direction from some place, and one of the devotees, he could get it from the internet, you know? You know, we will go to bed at night, and we will just like, you know, read some shastra. But now, the mobiles, the internet is so all-pervasive, you know? You can go one day without it, you know? And it is a powerful tool, don't get me wrong. So much access there to Krishna conscious things. But there is so much access also to so many distractions. And it's very difficult to stay away from it. Very difficult. So therefore, we need to make an extra effort to take shelter of the process of bhakti, of which chanting the holy name and reading Srimad Bhagavatam is of prime importance. And our acharyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, demonstrated this. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was constantly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. He would hear the same pastime again and again. Gadadhar Pandit will be reciting the pastime, will end the pastime. Mahaprabhu said, tell it again. I want to hear it again. And there was the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, he was reciting the Bhagavatam in different melodies for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Our acharyas has scrutinizingly studied the Srimad Bhagavatam. Our Srila Prabhupada, he put so much emphasis on the translation and distribution of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He himself, we have seen many times the picture of Prabhupada translating the Bhagavatam right until the end. But also I heard from His Holiness Shivaran Swami that he, Prabhupada himself, was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as well. He was hearing the first canto right at the end. So this is what is being offered to us, and the result of this is that inner satisfaction that makes any other type of happiness in this world look insignificant. So we're still hankering for some form of, you know, that we still have some hope that the material world has something to offer to us. Then it means that we are not tasting the nectar of Krishna consciousness. It means that we have been cheated. And Sridhar Swami, of course, these are very, very extreme examples. But we should train ourselves, or we should test ourselves. Like, as I was asking you, if Krishna comes and said to you, okay, you've been doing very nicely coming to Mangalarti for the last year or the last 5 years or whatever, you know, now I'll give you whatever blessing you want. Do you want to live? You want to have the same form as myself? Do you want to live in the same planet as myself? You want to have the same opulence as myself? What are all these? The different types of liberation. And the devotee, the actual devotee, the Narayana Parayana devotee, he's not interested even in this. I just want to serve you, my Lord. So I'm speaking very high things in one sense. We're all aspiring for this, but we should know what the goal is. We should have a clear understanding of what the goal of Krishna consciousness is. And when we have that goal very clear, then it will be much easier to pursue that goal, to follow it, and to desire it, to have that eagerness, that intense eagerness. When our spiritual practices become intensified by our eagerness, my chanting, my hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, that there was someone explaining that one of the acharyas, he was saying that, don't remember who he was saying that you should read the Bhagavatam, we should read the Bhagavatam just like, a lover who has just received a love letter from her beloved. And it has so much anticipation, it's like opening the letter, what is he going to say? What is he going to say, Have that intense eagerness to hear it. So now the question will be, and we're running out of time, but how are we going to cultivate that eagerness, right? It's very simple. It's through constant practice. The treasure is there, the promise is there. Prabhupada's promise, if we practice constantly means we persevere on the path. These gifts of Krishna consciousness are awaiting for us. Only time is separating. And we see that in the lives of devotees who have given their lives to Krishna. Where I was recollecting about Indradyumna Maharaj, and we see His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, despite so much, physical disturbance, he's undeterred in his service to Srila Prabhupada. And even we heard, I don't know but I heard, maybe you heard this also, that he was given the choice to go back or to stay and continue with his preaching. And he said, no, I stay, continue preaching. So, karmani nirvana vilambitani. Yeah. So we can get something from this class today. This is Dharma speaking to Mother Earth, and he's saying that by hearing about Krishna, by being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one becomes uninterested even in liberation. Yeah? So next time we are suffering or some threat is coming to us, instead of praying for, please relieve me from this burden, we should pray, please, my Lord, give me devotion to your lotus feet. Uninterrupted. Nothing higher than that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I made a mistake today in the class, and please excuse me. I was told to leave time for questions and answers, and I did not. I'm sorry, because Padmapad told me finish at 9, and it's 9 o'clock. So I don't know how to resolve this, because he's going to get on my case. You are the senior person here, Prabhu. You can tell me what to do. 30 seconds for any questions and answers? Okay. If you need to go, you can go, by the way, because then it will be... Yeah.
Prabhu, thank you very much for the wonderful class. I was trying to analyze your things. That one doubt is coming up is that when we say nirvana, vilambitani means it, what do you call that? Minimizes.
Yeah.
So, but what you're saying you put a faith in that, but then for me it's just like a piece of information. I'm unable to relate with nirvana. I don't know what it is. I don't know what, what is the perfection. That still I don't know. So this, both aspects are like, are just like information for me, because I'm not unable to relate with those things.
Very nice, yeah.
So how do you put your faith in this? In the sense that it is just like, when a car gets stuck in some mud and people push it, it goes up and then again it comes down.
Yeah.
The situation is still the same.
Very nice question. I believe I answered the question in the class, but I'll try to, consolidate the point. Yeah, how do we understand? I don't even know what you're talking, liberation, What you're talking about, liberation. But liberation means like cessation from all kinds of suffering. Can you relate to that? Do you have any material suffering? Yeah? So how wonderful will it be to become free from all suffering, right? Sometimes we wish I don't have any more, like, as I say, knee pain or, like mosquitoes biting me or whatever. Or the suffering experienced by the mind. Do you experience mental agony? I certainly do, from time to time. Like, if so many disturbances, can you imagine being free? Do you feel bound? Meaning the urges the urges of the mind, the urges of tongue, belly, genitals, the anger, greed. Do you want to control it and you can't? Anyone relates to this? I think this is something very relatable, no? We pray to Krishna, please help me, take this away. It doesn't go away. Okay? And we stumble on the same problem again and again. Okay? So we're bound, we're in bondage. Now, can you imagine be free from that? How good is that? How good will that be? You're no longer pushed around by your urges of anger, greed, lust. Finish business. Not bothered by that. Okay? How will you sign up for that if you could get it? How much value will that? How much? That you're not bothered by anything. Huh? Well, that is insignificant in front of pure devotional service. Answer the question a little bit? That is, insignificant. The happiness that we can derive from being absorbed in thinking of Krishna and a relationship with Him and our service to our spiritual master and preaching. Okay, now the other point was about bhakti. How do I relate to this, right? Well, we have experienced to some degree being absorbed in Krishna consciousness. I remember for me, one of those experiences is like, going out on Sankirtan with a whole book, like trolley full of books, and coming back with an empty trolley, I remember that was like ecstasy, you're coming back and you're just pushing the trolley with a finger, and your bag is just full of Lakshmi. And you have so many, memories of exchanges you have with someone, You are on the top of the world. At that moment, don't ask me about, driving a Ferrari or going to Beverly Hills or whatever, Cannot change that for that. It's just you're on the top of the moon. Or you are, whatever it is. Someone may have taste for kirtan or for... Last night we went in a beautiful kirtan here in Mayapur. And I was just thinking, gosh, we are already in the spiritual world. This is just like the spiritual world. Shida Mayapur, it manifests in so many ways. It gives us so many blessings. So we are experiencing some happiness in Krishna consciousness, right? And that happiness is more than anything else. So Krishna is giving us little drops of that happiness so that we become very determined to actually cultivate pure and unalloyed devotional service. That will be another class. The Master Prabhu could enlighten you in that. This is his favorite verse. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishna nusilanam bhakti rutama. That the way to attain this is through pure bhakti. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.